Hi, my name is Lilian Stephens, and I'm going to talk about the reasons why um, immigrant women, especially Kenya, because I'm from Kenya, immigrant women do not, why they get isolated. You know, there's a lot of videos out there, there's a lot of stuff that people talk about and say, why didn't you report, or why didn't you, like when people get depressed, you know, because some of the women, they end up getting depressed, some of them end up ending their life, and there's been a lot of suicides going on, especially with immigrants, but especially when you're going through abuse. So people have asked why don't they just why are they isolating themselves, you know? And I'm going to talk from my personal story. Most of these things I'm going to talk about is basically why I isolated myself. The reason why most people isolate themselves, especially Kenyans, is because it starts very, you know, you come to America or you meet your husband here, you don't have papers, or he brings you here, and you're under his visa, and obviously the way we were raised back home is to respect your husband, and to also to trust your husband. He's the one who brought you here, so everything he tells you, basically you believe. And control is one of the reasons why most immigrant women end up isolating themselves. The control starts very slowly. You know, the way it starts is that, baby, I just don't like you talking to your aunt. Your aunt doesn't like me. Or it'll start like your cousins, they're not good people. I hear stories about them, and you're like, oh, I don't feel comfortable you talking to your friends. So it starts in a very subtle way. And when it starts in a very subtle way, you basically, it doesn't, when it starts in a subtle way, you don't even realize that you're starting to isolate yourself, because you start avoiding your auntie, then you start avoiding your cousin, and then you start, you know, because you want to please him. And a lot of time is because they want to please the abuser. So they and not even to please, they also don't want any problems. So when they don't want any problems, they'd rather keep away from those people, because they don't want you cussing their auntie, or being mean to their auntie, or just embarrassing them. So they really isolate themselves. And then another reason is because you're new in town. If you're new in America, you do not know the laws and the regulations. So everything you hear from the person you're living with, you believe. I remember I lived around Kenyans in Dallas. That means I didn't know anything past the Kenyans. I moved to come to America, and my life was just with the Kenyans. I ate Kenyan food, I hanged around Kenyan clubs, and when everything was Kenyan. So how would I know anything better? That means whatever they told me was true. Hey, you can be caught anytime. You go to a party, and they're talking about how many people were caught and how many people were so you're literally living in fear. And then your husband or fiance that time is also telling you that, hey, since you don't have paper, you need to just stay at home. Stop. You might be caught. You know, so and so was caught. A funny story is, I remember we used to go to one party, and I don't want to mention names, me and my ex, and we would go to a party, and the conversation throughout the party and would be about immigration and how many people were caught. And funny enough, I was the only one that time that my status had expired. So of course, I started avoiding going there because every time he would want me to go there, I would kind of have an excuse because I didn't want to hear those stories. And every time I would come from there, I'd be in tears. I'd even be scared of opening the windows or just thinking somebody knocked the door. So you kind of isolate yourself so much when you don't have paper. And also the friends, you find that you're living with, you're new in the country, or you're new, you're new, you know, where you live, and all the friends are your husband's friends. So you don't want to, and you do not want to tell anybody what's going on. So you keep a lot of stuff to yourself because you know very well if this man is abusing you, you do not want to tell his friends that he's abusing you because you don't know how they'll react. And then every day you see them partying together, enjoying themselves. So in your mind, you're thinking that they're not going to help you. So a lot of times you stay in the house scared of telling the only people you know who are your husband's friends and your friends about what's going on. So you end up isolating yourself. You don't tell them. They even ask you, is everything okay? You say it's okay because you know very well if you told any of them, they will tell your husband, and of course he's gonna abuse you more or hurt you. So a lot of women, they say that, you know, you have to stay. I've seen some videos saying, hey, you need to stay, be with the Kenyans and socialize with the Kenyans. But sometimes that doesn't work like that because you are the group that you hang with. So your husband's friends, the wives, they look happy. You don't want to be the one. Personally, I didn't want to talk to my husband's friends because I didn't want to start that up. Another reason is you have seen a lot of friends, they have seen the man demean you. They're around you, they've seen the man say, abuse you or just tell you horrible things, and none of them have done something. So you tell me, how are you going to trust the people around you when they've seen your husband abuse you? They've seen your husband your husband comes to their house every day and drinks, even sometimes leaves you in the house. He comes and drinks. Some of they've seen your husband bring women there and they've not said anything. So how are you going to trust the people around you? Because you end up isolating yourself because these are the people you know. You don't want to just go say your story out there. So you end up not saying a lot of stuff. So a lot of the perception of law enforcement, the perception for an abused woman or for a new person in this country about law enforcement is normally not good. But they think that the immigration, the police will catch you. The police will, so much that when you start getting abused, you can't even call the police because you're too scared. Because the people around you have told you, hey, do not call police in this country. If you call police, they might take you to jail or they might, you know, the perception is just not good. And then the fear of deportation. You know, you don't want to be deported. You don't want people knowing your story because they might report you to immigration. So a lot of them isolate themselves for that reason. And then culture and religious reasons. You just don't know. You don't want to mix with the white people or the Mexicans around you because everybody is talking about them and saying this and that about them. You know, honestly, for me, I think isolation is because you just know the people. You, like me, I was isolated mainly because that's all I knew. The people I knew was my husband's friends. We shared common friends, so I did not want to talk about it. They had seen him abuse me. They have seen him talk about me, and none of them helped me. So why turn to them? So I basically kept out. And also, you know, fear of deportation. I just didn't know how the law works. I didn't know how to get information to the right from the, you know, and Kenyans don't just go telling you about immigration. The ones that tell you the worst sometimes about the worst stuff about it. You know, they tell you, you only hear the worst news sometimes around when you go around certain groups of people. And I'm not just saying only, you know, Kenyans, but many. You know, you get intimidated with your friends too. So the friends are your husband's friends. They're doing well. They're happy. So you get intimidated. You don't want to turn to them. And then economic abuse. You know, you don't have the money. You're broke in the house. You don't want to. You're not used to begging. Your culture. You know, you're back home. You never used to beg. So you end up just not wanting to talk to anybody. Emotional abuse, a lot of them kind of keeps you also isolated because you're being told you're not beautiful, you're ugly, you're this. I remember I never used to go out, you know, because my ex would actually go out without me. Sometimes he'd even take my sister-in-law who was living with me and take her out and leave me in the house taking care of the kids. So your self-esteem just goes way down. So I think people say you need to socialize with Kenyans, and that is good. We need to encourage socialization, and we need to encourage people to stay together, you know, join groups and all this stuff. But the truth of the matter is that unless you've been in an abusive relationship, you do know that you can be amongst people and still be lonely and suicidal. So the group can be a good thing, but sometimes group is not a good thing. Most abusers, they identify somebody within the group. Like I know a lot of people who have identified me within the group, and they just realize that, you know, maybe I can turn to her and isolate me and kind of ask me questions about what's going on or abuse or what they're going through. So trying to say that that person never was with us, was always keeping away to themselves. There's a reason why they keep away from themselves. It's mostly because of what we do also, the way we treat them, the way we make them feel, sometimes just is not right. So for me, I believe that saying that people keep away and then when they need problem, that's when they turn. To me, I finally came out of my abuse when I isolated myself from the group. And the reason why I did that, I was able to do that, is because I kept doing the same thing. You know, if you keep doing the same thing, they said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and trying to get the same results. I kept running to friends and I would get the same answers. I kept doing a lot of stuff, you know, and it just never worked for me. So until I kept away from the same rhetoric, the same messages, oh, Kenyan men are like that, oh, this man used to be good before he married you with his ex-wife, he didn't used to do this, and also just what did you do, or maybe you're just overthinking, you're overdoing. I had to get away from that, and I wanted to and the only people that I really did get help from that could understand me mostly was organizations. That's why I encourage anybody who's going through abuse, even if you have family and friends and you can turn to them, you also need somebody who does not judge you, who doesn't know, who you can tell your story and they won't bring their 2 cents in your story that they already think because somebody already told them what your story is. So it's okay to go for counseling and or go to a group, you know, like support groups, especially the ones that are dealing with domestic violence. Most of them are free, and that way you can talk your story and leash out whatever you want to do, and that way you're okay. But I think that people don't realize that groups and it's good. Imagine you have to go to a group and they want you to join the group and you can't even afford that money. There's some people out here who need help, but they're so scared because just involving in a group just involves money. It's like, oh, so and so needs money, and these are women who are basically relying on their husband for everything. They can't donate $50 or $5 that you want, and they start feeling so intimidated So they don't want to ask for help because they're so scared that you're going to say, oh, you're not asking for help, but yesterday you could not even remove $5. Most of the abused women or the ones that are going through domestic violence, they really do not have money because their husband controls every single penny. They might be having good lipstick, good whatever, everything, but really they can't afford it out there. So sometimes we have to encourage these people to, even though they join our groups and we want them to socialize with Kenyans, we also want to encourage them to get help sometimes from organizations that know how to deal with it within this country. You know, you live in America, they have organizations that won't deal with it like Kenyans dealt with it. So encourage the people to get help by going for counseling, turning to organizations, or just get out of your box. My encouragement is that, you know, I love our Kenyan community, and I'll tell you, I'm there, you know, on the Kenyan community, but sometimes it's okay to break from the Kenyan community and do your thing, you know, because sometimes you're doing the same thing, you're around the same people who saw you get hurt, you're around the same people who make you feel ashamed because they are friends with your ex, you're around the same people who make you feel unwanted because you can't give the same money. Sometimes you just have to stick out and get out. Well, that's my 2 cents for today. Thank you. This is Lilian Stephens. Bye. And hey, I didn't have the hotline number. I want everybody to know that if you're feeling alone, you're feeling lonely, you're feeling isolated, you're going through abuse, some mental, it doesn't have to be physical, just type national hotline for domestic violence. It's national. That means if you call, they will find you somebody in the area who can help you. So you stop getting isolated and you can get help. You still need family because, you know, then you need their support, you need your Kenyan community, but you can also go out of the box if you cannot deal with the Kenyan community or the other country, wherever you're coming from. Thanks, bye.